today we're actually getting into private lending. So that's when you start to use alternative funds. When institutions, for example, the banks say no, it doesn't mean that you cannot expand. It doesn't mean that you're done when it comes to investing. One of the questions I get asked the most is that I don't have the ability to qualify for a mortgage. What should I do? Can I still invest? So look at it from both sides. If you're not able to obtain funds from the banks or institutions, there are non-institutional resources out there. However, I do not recommend people to do it without learning about what it is first. And same thing, reach out to the professionals, people who are licensed, people who have E&O. Do people know what E&O stands for? Kate, I assume you have an E&O for your profession.
Emissions.
There you go, arrows and emission. Yes. So if you're reaching out to your team members, if anything goes wrong professionally, they're responsible. And that's why you should do it legally and ethically. I don't recommend anybody to just jump in and buy a property. Really, it is about how to set yourself up with the power team members. Even though I'm not a mortgage broker, I'm not a realtor, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer. I'm here to share my experience as an investor and how you should leverage your power team member. This is really important. We kept mentioning power team because this is a big part of building up your real estate portfolio or your real estate business. And of the few ones I mentioned here, mortgage broker, accountants, lawyers, who else did I not list here? Ed, who do you think you need on your power team that are not listed here?
Okay, you got the mortgage broker, realtor, accountant, lawyer, and
Actually, Ted, you already mentioned realtor. You were going without noticing.
Yeah, automatic.
So yes, it is important to build up a power team. And in this particular strategy, mortgage brokers are important. And your network is really important. Who you know, who might have the opportunity as well. So John, thank you for logging in. I just see your camera turning on. I do want to recognize that. So how are you doing?
Good. Good. How about yourself?
Good, good. So I've known John for quite some time now, right?
Yeah, it's been a few years, yeah.
Yes. So thank you for logging in. We're just getting started. And very importantly, your real estate investing mentor. We're also a big part of your power team to watch your blind spot for you and to get you started. I think the hardest thing is for people to see how it could be done. So it's really important for you to follow people who have done it and who are willing to share with you. So it's perfectly fine if you want to leverage our knowledge. So OPM, what is OPM? Since we're talking about private lending today. Kate, what is OPM?
Other people's money.
Other people's money. Thank you. So OPT, leverage my time, other people's time, leverage other people's knowledge. So the little quote I put here, it basically means leverage other people's intelligence, leverage other people's strength, and leverage other people's courage. And you're the one who is going to put everything together and put the plan together. So very importantly, today, if there's anything distract you, so when we're in a live environment, we usually tell you to do a mind dump so you can focus. Write everything down that might be affecting you, focusing on what we're supposed to do today. Put it on a piece of paper, roll it up, put it away. You're here to focus on learning about real estate. So if you're eating, I get that. It's late at night for some people. If you have to eat, perfectly fine. And if it's something that you can put aside, that's going to distract you. Make sure you do that and focus. So perhaps have somebody watch your kid and participate. So if I said anything that's going to stop you from going forward to learn further about what being a bank is about, let me know. So really important that you participate. So when I ask you to answer questions, sometimes you'll be voluntold. So participate is a very big part of it. really, I think just reading the slides, you can also do that. And call to action. If you want the slides, reach out to me or your strategy coach. Or if you have a mentor, ask them, what do they use as a contract? What do your mentors do when it comes to private lending, when it comes to act like the bank? So 10% about learning is about just reading it. Now, turn your speaker up if you can hear me well, and also turn your camera on so I can see you and you can see me. It's really important for me to do that. And I can tell if you're a little confused or if I said something that makes you feel like you're drinking from fire hose. That's not my intention. My intention to make something that seems scary or complicated easier for investors or for new investors to come. Once you see it, hear it, it's time to speak it, speak the language. If I mention any jargon, any terms that you've never heard of, raise your hand. And also sometimes you can put in the chat. At the end of the session, we won't have a break today. Usually we have a break, then I'll look through your questions. Today, at the end of the session, I'll look through any questions you might have. So it depends on your style of learning. You can also just ask the questions, raise your hand, and unmute yourself to ask questions. And really, it's when you start to take action. That's when you start to learn about what this is really about. And what's the 10%? It's really important to have fun. So I get that sometimes the numbers could seem dry. The point is for you to see what's behind it, what that number really means to you as an investor. What does it bring to you as an investor, as somebody who is using real estate as a vehicle to reach your goal? So really think about how to have fun and why is this so much fun when you go through the numbers? Because it's really exciting when you think about ROI, return on investment. So we'll use that term a lot today, ROI, return on investment. Not just about money, I also want to maximize your time. So maximize your return on investment when you invest the time here with us today. So that's why it's so important. I ask you to focus on what we're doing here today. So you maximize your time, maximize what I can provide to you. I'm here to serve you. And I do want to thank you for being here because I appreciate every single opportunity I have to share my knowledge. And it's really exciting when I see investors coming to the journey together, and we're all real estate geeks. So it's really fun to talk about it. And I found that the most important thing is about how to conquer fear. I hope the knowledge will help you conquer fear where you have doubts thinking about what if this happened? What if that happens? At Trust Your Talent, we always mention look for multiple exit strategies. 3x3, 3 different strategies and 3 different exit strategies. So what if this happened? Go to plan B. What if this happened? Go to plan C. And we're also here to motivate you. I get that when it's out there, not everybody is doing what we do. So you might be wondering sometimes when you hear a lot of noises, especially today, you hear people talking about higher interest rates, harder to find cash flow opportunities. They're still there. They're still there. So I do want to motivate you to see that it's not always rainbows and butterflies. At the same time, there's always different obstacles. And to motivate you to say that, hey, we're going through some actual examples. And from me and other trainers on the team, there are still opportunities out there. If you're just here to gain some knowledge, totally fine. That's the first step you see and hear. If that's where you are and knowledge make you feel more comfortable, that is okay too. However, I do want you to take a step further and think about what that knowledge will help you along the journey. Resources. The network is here. I mentioned OPM, other people's money. I do want you to see their opportunities out there. Other people's money doesn't just mean the bank. You can be the bank and you can leverage other people's banks as well. So OPT, leverage my time, my knowledge, and everybody else in the community. So even though I'm talking about real estate today, I'm sure there's something you can offer as well. There's something I can learn from you as well. And sometimes when you ask questions, That's when I learn about what questions students might have, how we can make it easier for you. So your feedback is also very important. And if you didn't catch my email in the beginning of the seminar, I do put it on the first slide, I believe. My email is just Brooke, my first name, BROOKE @trustyourtalent.ca. And on top of that, if you don't know why you're here, you just want to take action. You just want to take it a step further, and that's totally fine too. So think about it. Tell me why you're here today. And Catherine is here helping me along the way today as well. Can you start the first poll so people can let us know why they're here today? Let us know what's stopping you from taking the next step or going any further. Okay, interesting. So half of the people have put in your answers. You can think about it a little bit. Okay, I think we can share the results. Okay, so from what I see, most people here want to be action takers. Even if you don't know why you're here today, at least take action. At least take action today. And even if this is not your focus strategy or you don't know why you need private funds at this point, it's totally fine. At some point along your journey, you'll see how everything will come together. And all we want to do is to have one more tool in your toolbox. So when you need to, you can pull it out. Sometimes it's just not one strategy. It might not just be private lending. It could be combined with something else that help you complete your journey, help you reach your goal. I can let you know something about me. I know everybody's here thinking about financial freedom, financial independence. We can talk about what it means to you. For me, that one private lending deal was what takes me from working on all the deals to financial freedom. And at every different stage in your life, it might be very different for you as well. So thank you, Catherine. We can stop sharing. I know that everybody's here to learn, take action and learn about it. And I should put down one more. I don't know why I'm here, which is perfectly fine. I know some of you are already advanced students. If you're new in the community and don't know why you're doing this and don't know what the next step to take, make sure you schedule a call using the QR code. If you're not familiar with QR codes, Catherine will also put the link in the chat to speak to a strategy coach, to speak to one of them. So they'll let you know what the next step to take is. If you're just thinking about it, it's really a dream. If you can vision it, it is possible. It's really when you schedule it and take action, it will be real. And yes, there are many different strategies, really depending on where you are, what you want to do. And I also think it's what speaks to you. Not everybody is handy. Like me, I'm not handy. So when I started on the journey, I was a little hesitant to start anything that's remotely involving in any distressed property or requiring picking up a hammer. However, once you start to learn the process, it's really not that scary. And just like what you're doing, it's really about just taking action. And surprisingly, not too many people came in because you're fearful of what could happen. A lot of the times, it's same thing. You learn about something, you take the next step. As long as you're taking action, that is how you can conquer fear. And you can see that it's not that hard as long as you take some action. So we mentioned at least three hard strategies. And with lease option, which we talked about last week, distressed properties, I know a lot of new students will start to take distressed properties because this is a strategy that everybody will use along the way, along with creative financing, for example. So we'll touch upon creative financing today. Only a small portion of it. I do want to warn you that what you're doing here is just to learn enough to be dangerous. And I want you to see that everything is possible, so you can take the next step. What's coming up is our live classes and live workshop. This is really rare, and you're actually coming in at a very good time if you wanted to start the journey and start to learn about it. It's going to be happening in Vancouver. Why is it a rare occasion? Because usually the workshops are online, just like what we're doing here. For the whole weekend, you're just touching everybody virtually. And what's coming up is going to be the live event. So we're going to cover all your meals, by the way, just to let it out. Just that alone is really nice buffet. Just that alone will be worth it for you. I think the most important thing is to see that students are actually succeeding along the journey. So there's going to be award nights. Everybody will dress up really nicely, just like what you see in the picture here. Everybody will dress up and celebrate each other's success. So you don't have to be in a virtual environment. We can actually see each other and do this live in all the classes. For those of you who are completely new in the community, if this is your first seminar, the next step is to get into the live workshop. By the way, we only have a few seats left for the workshop because we only have 10 days to go. It's mostly filled up. I still want to give you the opportunity to register at this point. So if you are available and you can fly to Vancouver, it'll be totally worth your time. And we have 100% money back guarantee. Not because we're not confident, because we're so confident that you're going to have so much fun. And I put in the buffet there because that's what I enjoy. That's your opportunity to speak to everybody, enjoy a great meal. So we're going to start with breakfast. So come in on time. That's really important. To come in on time, then we're going to have a lunch break as well. And as a bonus, usually award night is for registered students only. However, because you decide to take action and be there, since you're in person already, we're going to make it special so everybody could join the award night and dress up nicely. See everybody being pretty. Love that. And besides the live workshop, there's going to be a few advanced classes offered. And REI Fundamental, that's when you start to learn about distressed property. Like I mentioned, everybody should know how it works. Not just to pick up the hammer, also know where the opportunities are, how the numbers work. And I will be teaching Creative Financing 1. This is slightly more advanced, so when you think you don't have any more resources left, there are still opportunities out there. We're going to go through contract, joint venture agreements, letter of intent, etc., promissory notes, and in service accommodation, at Trust Your Talent, it's not just about short-term rental. It's not just about Airbnb. It's a platform. There's also student rentals, executive rentals, and rooming housing, and infill and project management. I would recommend students to take this class once you have a few classes or a few tools in your tool belt, because it is slightly more advanced. And this is about building from ground up or developed a piece of land. At Trust Your Talent, we don't only talk about the Canadian market, and we also offer U.S. curriculum. This time, we're going to offer U.S. foreclosure. And if you're familiar with the Canadian market, we don't actually have true foreclosure in Canada. So whenever that happens or somebody didn't pay their mortgage, etc., they are still required to put it on the market first, for example. So really, if you want to tap into a different market, a different strategy, U.S. foreclosure is offered as well. So take a picture of the QR code, and also Catherine will put in the link. This is what we're going to do, award nights, classes, and also we're going to network. And for the agenda today, we will go through REI, so real estate investing fundamentals, and why we're using private funds. By the way, even though we mentioned that this is a soft strategies, once you have enough capital, you can also be very passive if this is your strategy to help you reach your financial goals. And also, when you're getting into different strategies, you might be able to look into private funds and see how this could work for you. Okay? So a little bit about me, and I do think it's really about you. And everybody is very different because you might be here because you already have funds. You might be here because you want to get out of your jobs. For me, I got into different strategies because that happens at different stages in my life. I started with lease option. It is quite active in the beginning because with lease option, if you're the one that look for deals, you have to actively market your company, market the strategy itself. And I got into distressed property. Distressed property, we just had a seminar about 2 days ago. Distressed property could be a strategy that you use as a fix and flip, or you want to hold a property for the long haul. You can use the strategy to force appreciate, meaning to improve the property so you can generate better cash flow in the long run. So I started with lease option because I want to have enough cash flow to replace my working income. I got into distressed properties because at the same time, I want to have some long-term wealth. So I want to have some buy and hold properties. And wholesale, because sometimes if you have too many deals, you're not able to take them all on, and there's still money to be made for the next person. Wholesale is also a strategy. If you want to build capital in the beginning, fix and flip wholesale is something that could help you quickly build up capital. So perhaps you can be the bank as a result. And everything we do here and everything I do is based on what my goals are at the time. If you haven't got a chance to read my book, make sure you reach out to me at the annual conference so I can sign your book and give you a copy of my book as well. And everything I do, like I mentioned, and even with the seminar, my goal is to be absolutely comfortable to speak in front of a crowd. And actually, personally, everybody should have a personal goal as well. Personally, when I look at cash flow, is to see how I can support my lifestyle. If my lifestyle is to live in a bigger home, for myself, by the way, it's a doodad. In this case, it's not an asset. Remember, when it takes money out of your pocket, if you're paying a mortgage and it is not generating income for you, it is a liability. So I look at if my goal is to buy a house and my expense will be increased by, say, $5,000, find a way to generate that $5,000. Same thing with private lending, and I'll show you how that works. By the way, I trust your talent. My goal is for you to reach your financial independence in 2 to 5 years. If you don't, by the way, it took me about 4 years. It didn't take me only 2 years or so. I actually took a little bit longer than a lot of the students, than a lot of people I see in the community. However, our goal is 2 to 5 years. It doesn't really matter. Perhaps because you still have a job, you have young kids, whatever it is really doable. And our goal is 2 to 5 years. So even after you completed the program within 7 years, as long as you can reach your goals and have results, you'll be awarded at award nights to be recognized. So if I'm not making a difference in your life, let me know. And you can log off if you don't want to waste your time. I totally understand that. However, since we're all here, leverage my time. If you have any questions at the end, make sure you ask me any questions you might have, or it might not make sense to you. Again, we are focused and intentional of what we're doing. Think about why you're doing this. Could it be portfolio income? Could it be earned income? And I'll explain briefly what they are. So if you're focusing on fix and flip and wholesale, meaning that you will constantly trading your time for money. One deal after another, you will have to consistently look for new deals. That is your earned income. A lot of the times, it will help you accumulate capital a lot faster, which I think makes sense. And people should be awarded for their time and for their efforts. So be generous if people are putting their time, if they're wholesaling you a deal, as long as you can make money as well. And also, it doesn't matter how much it costs you. It's really about what it's going to bring you as a result. In terms of passive income, cash flow. So lease option is a strategy that's going to bring you all different buckets of income. And everything that we're going to talk about will relate to private lending, because you can use funds in different strategies, and you can use funds for long-term or short-term strategies as well. And put this down if you're not familiar with it. Usually when the interest rate is high and private lending, hard money, it's supposed to be for short term, because your goal is to find cheaper money in the future to replace the funds. So when it comes to private money, or when it comes to OPM, other people's money, usually when it's more expensive is for the short term, okay? And ultimately, you have to decide what your strategies are after thinking about what your goals are. Strategy, market, property. Okay, so today we're going to talk about private lending, and it could be supporting different strategies that you're going to focus on. Again, you don't have to only invest in your backyard. So the market could be anywhere as long as you know how to build up a power team. By the way, if you're around in November, we're going to have a podcast series about how to build a very strong power team. So you don't have to only focus on the market that's close to you. That's our goal. You can invest anywhere. Who's here so we can have location freedom? Perfect. Time freedom? There you go. So I can see what our goals are here. Really, where you're financially is important as to where you should start. We buy and sell to create capital so that we can buy and hold to create wealth. Write this down if you're not familiar with the term. We buy and sell to create capital. So I get that if you want to be the bank. At this point, if you don't have capital yet to be the bank, think about how you can buy and sell, perhaps flip, perhaps even wholesale is paper flipping. How you can create capital so that you can buy and hold to create wealth. So sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. And really what we're teaching here is not about getting rich quick. It is about getting rich for sure. So if it doesn't happen, think about how you should pivot. If one strategy doesn't work, why do we have 2 or 3 different strategies as our focus strategies? Because you can always pivot. And I'm not pointing fingers. However, a lot of people in the real estate community that I saw, if they only focus on, say, conversions, or if they only focus on wholesaling, a lot of the times they are holding the property and not knowing what to do because they don't have multiple exit strategies or they don't know how different strategies work. So even though we're talking about money today, I'm going to combine different strategies for you to see how it works. And really, this, at Trust Your Talent, this curriculum is about education. It's financial education. We just happen to use real estate as a vehicle. And for some of the event students in the community, you know that we're also getting into paper assets, how to make money in different ways, leveraging different vehicles. And a lot of things we're learning here, even though we're talking about real estate, it could be applied elsewhere. And I do want you to open your mind and think about what other areas in your life this could work. Every time you devote your time, think about return on investment, return on your time. Is it worth it for me? What are my opportunity costs? So just a little tip here and there. And if you're thinking you don't have any more mortgageability, that happens a lot. A lot of investors, even at my age, even though we accumulated some work experience, we probably have saved up a little bit of money in RSP in retirement. By the time you purchase your 4th property, 5th property, institutional lending might be very limited to you. I'm not saying it's impossible. However, it could be very limited. So now it's your time to think about what other opportunities or options are out there. We're only going to talk about private lendings today, so we won't have time to talk about joint venture. When we get into the creative financing 1 and also more advanced strategies, we'll get into how joint venture and how different structures work. And really, what is private lending? Private lending is basically a loan from non-institution individuals. So not from the bank or a mortgage investment corporation. So not institutions. And they're secured by hard assets. In this case, real estate. So I've also lent out secured upon, for example, a truck. And you can secure on other assets as long as there is value in it. So just something to think about. In terms of the process, it's very similar to when you get funding from the bank. By the way, there are different type, hard lending or private money. You can either register on title or you don't. Some people don't even go through a lawyer. They just sign a promissory note and call it done. I did hear a lot of stories. I've done that in the past. So luckily it was people I really trusted. in today's environment, I would recommend, highly recommend that you lend based on the collateral, and go through a lawyer as well, especially if you're just starting to get into private lending. So very similar process. Some people call it armchair investors. You locate a deal, do your due diligence. And that's also why it's so important for you to learn different deals so you can understand how they're going to pay you back. How can they make profit or return on investment better than what you see in GICs, better than what you see in mutual funds investing with the bank forever. So you have to do your due diligence to see how they can pay you back and why does the deal make sense. That's why it's important for you to learn about different strategies and analyze a deal. Do your due diligence. Even if you trust the borrower's information that they provided to you, still, we always say trust and verify. Trust and verify. Number 3, going through the legal paperwork. So sometimes it could be very complicated. Sometimes it could be a 2-pager. It depends. And 4, you can go through a financial institution. In some cases, we'll talk about our RSP lending as well. It's not traditional bank. In that situation, you will have to go through institution as a trustee. So number 5, it's a hard word for an ESL like me. It basically just means that the funds gets channeled, gets advanced. So the armchair investing, meaning you just sit back, let the whole process work for you and let money work for you. And once you get the loan paid back, look for another deal. So your money is consistently and constantly working for you. That's how the bank works. And I hope that's how you work as well. So I got that while you're here. What's stopping you today from going forward? Perhaps knowledge, perhaps fear. Can we do another poll? What is your investment goal? By the way, your goals could change depending on where you are in life. So really, it is a process. Okay, we can share the results. This time, everybody's more familiar with the process. It was done very quickly. So get out of your job. Okay, only one person is aiming to get out of the job. All right, so everybody's doing what you love. Perfect. So the next one is to accumulate capital so your money can work for you. Okay, consistent cash flow. Retirement. I guess in this group, people are not old enough to think about retirement yet, I assume. And create wealth for your family. Okay, it's good that everybody knows why you're here. Thank you for sharing. Catherine, we can stop sharing for now. By the way, this could really change. Perhaps you lost your job today and you're thinking about accumulating a huge lump sum of capital so your money can work for you. Or perhaps you're thinking, okay, now I have enough capital. It's time to build some wealth. When I started investing, I had a lot of short-term strategies. So by the way, when you're joint venture with somebody, eventually joint venture will end. If you're doing private lending or if you're flipping houses, you'll constantly look for new deals. So when I started investing, that's what was happening. I felt like I was really busy. At the same time, I didn't feel like I was building a legacy or building wealth. Until later on, I realized, okay, now it's time to start to focus on different things. So how do you plan ahead? If you're thinking about what strategies to focus on, here I'm just giving you some example. Not absolute numbers. However, if you just want some guidelines to see what strategies you want to focus on, say if you're going to focus on MUR, so multi-unit residential, even if it's single family home, if it can cash flow, it's still income property. By the way, if it doesn't cash flow, it's not income property. You should think about doing something with your portfolio and move your capital elsewhere. So if you're thinking about multi-unit residential, for example, the average income is $150 per door. If you need, say, $1,500 if you just want some extra income. For example, if you just want to get your car payments covered, how many income properties or how many doors do you need? if your income property is generating, say, $100 per door, you might need to work a little bit harder, accumulate more properties. However, I do want to point out that at Trust Your Talent, we don't encourage you to be property collectors. Why does it matter if it doesn't generate cash flow for you? Consider it as a business. We're teaching you to make it scalable, to make it sustainable. So if you don't generate any cash flow, how is this business sustainable? And the next strategy, lease option. Cash flow is really good. And think about what markets would make sense. I can tell you this changes too, because some markets that used to be first-time homeowner friendly might get expensive now. So you might be focusing lease option in different markets, for example. So if you can find one lease option that generates cash flow, why do they say 500 to 1200? If you're joint venture with somebody else, you'll have to share that cash flow. So if you don't have the ability to qualify for a mortgage, consider joint venture with somebody else. So use that number to see how many deals you should be generating per year to help you reach your financial goals. So service accommodation, for example, it generates about $300 per month. How many service accommodation deals should you have in order to help you reach that goals? You don't have to just focus on one strategy. You can have multiple. And as you can see, if it's flip, you can generate roughly about $20,000. However, it also depends. If you're in a more expensive market, perhaps the ROI, return on investment, is lower. However, every flip might generate more income for you. Wholesale and assignment, that also really depends. You can wholesale and assign a single family home. You can also wholesale a multifamily. If you have vendor take back, etc., in your deal, different closing terms. So once you get into different strategies, more advanced creative financing, or also multifamily, then you know that a better deal could also generate more wholesale and assignment fee. So take a picture of it, and this is a guideline. Once you have that in mind, how much do you need? How much do you need to help you cover your basic expenses? So really, everybody is different. For some people, they just want extra income to cover a fancy trip once a year. And this is the average spending of Canadians in different cities. If it's a family of four, let's look at the number and assume that your basic expenses will be around $5,000. I'm just using a rough number. Or if you're in Quebec City, less than 4,200. And if you look at what you should be focusing on, I'm giving you the example of if you focus on 3 different strategies, and if you tell me you're busy, can you do one deal every 2 months? Can you focus on one deal every season, so quarterly? If we base on this assumption, 3 strategies every 2 months, work on one deal. By the way, private lending is really about running the numbers. So this is just to get you familiar with what you're doing, why you're looking at the ROI, why you're looking at the cash flow. So if you look at lease option and income property, it does generate cash flow. All the 3 strategies that I put down here will generate cash flow, not necessarily helping you build up capital. So just take a look. If you're doing 2 deals every 2 deals and 6 deals, 6 deals so every 2 months, you're focusing on one deal. This is how you can reach your financial freedom goal. Financial freedom is your passive income covering your basic expenses. So I'm giving you an idea of what the average is in Canada. So you might want to live a better life. That's totally fine. Just aim higher. How many deals would you have to be completing every year in order to reach your goal? Okay, so I'll tell you how private lending helped me reach my goal. I actually had the funds, and I was hesitant to lend out my money because, like you, perhaps you feel like you're not familiar with how everything works. You feel that you don't have the knowledge yet. That's exactly how I felt. So even though I had the funds, I didn't jump into it. And I feel like everything that you do or everything that happens, throughout the course of your journey is meant to happen the way exactly it should be. So if you're the lender, what's the benefit? You can decide on your criteria, by the way. The good thing is we're in the real estate community. It's secured by hard assets. So it should be something you're more comfortable with. Passive equity income, and really it's portfolio income. You're not picking up a hammer a lot of the times. So all the costs in general is covered by the borrower, or you can decide how you should be covered. It should be covered in the beginning of the process, covered during, or sometimes the lender receive a lump sum in the very end. And you can decide on the return on investment and how much risk you want to take. If you're looking for cash flow, perhaps when you're a lender, you prefer not to have a lump sum at the end. You prefer monthly interest payments. And really, this is these two asset classes. You can negotiate how you want to be paid, like I mentioned. Credit check. Sometimes people don't check their credits, don't check the borrower's credit. It's really up to you. And I understand that for us, sometimes if we're actively building up our portfolio, our credit could be hurt. My credit is not the best right now. However, if my credit is at 870, I know that I'm not making my money running fast enough for me. Or perhaps I can look into more leverage opportunities too. So it's really up to you if you want to do a credit check. I think it just showing you how they're managing money or where the funds are going. It could be an open mortgage meaning that after 3 months, you can decide if you want to get it back or we can extend it. Or you can decide, I think I'll need the funds in a year. Then we'll set up a closed mortgage within the year. So broker fee, if you go through a broker, sometimes you can also set a lender fee. You can say that, hey, I would like to receive, for example, 1% upfront or at the end of the lending term. Is really, really flexible as to what you can do. You don't have to verify down payment. By the way, has anybody recently applied for a mortgage? A simple mortgage? No, nobody has? Cool. So usually when you buy a house, a single family home or even multifamily, they will require you to verify your net worth, for example. And a lot of the times, we're going to go through it in the more advanced class. Because I see that some people want to build up legacy. If you want to help your kids someday, a lot of the times, and actually more and more these days, parents are helping out. Parents are helping out the kids with the down payment. So in the private lending situation, you don't have to verify where the down payment is from. And for the borrower, one day, if you have a lot of projects on the go, you might be the borrower too. It's pretty easy. If your credit score is not the greatest, you still have a chance of getting funding. If you already have a lot of credits, and a lot of people are actually sitting on a lot of equity on the properties they own, it's not always easy to take it out of the bank. However, within the community, as long as you can show there's money in the bank, money in your piggy bank, let me rephrase that. Money in your piggy bank, or sometimes we say that's equity. And a lot of the times people show a lot of net worth. It's not liquid though. They have to sell their house. They're not able to take the money out quickly. If they're able to show there's wealth, there's equity. So we call it portfolio income too. If there's money the house is sitting on, there's still good collateral. And I mentioned that a lot of the times when you get into multifamily, the lenders want to look at your portfolio. What are you working on? Are you a trustworthy or experienced investor? So same thing. For the borrower, you can show your portfolio and money will come to you. There's unlimited funds if you don't just limit your resources to institutional funding only. So one thing I do want you to remember, if you take away nothing from today's session, rules of three. Always, all the seminars, I try to simplify it, so you just have to remember 3 things. When it comes to private lending, why is it so simple? Really, you just focus on 3 things. Return on investment. Can anybody tell me what's return on investment? How you would explain it to a grade 5, a 10-year-old? John, how would you explain return on investment?
So basically, just be the amount of money being paid back off of what you've loaned out.
Thank you. Perfect. That's it. So a lot of the times we say how much in, how much out. That's it. How much in, how much out. That's ROI, return on investment. People get confused when we talk about, oh, the money put this in, the bank put this much in, and so and so. It doesn't matter. It's how much you put in, how much you take out. That is your return on investment. So return on investment and how long they need the funding for. A lot of the times investors have different projects lined up. Perhaps you do have the funds if you sell a particular property. If it doesn't happen right now, well, you can use as collateral to take more money out to fund the next project. Number 3, security. So we also talk about collateral. Same thing. What is your collateral? What is your security? What is your security? Okay, very simple. So let me just go through one example with you. I know for some new investors, going through the number is a little bit harder, and really it just takes practice. It just takes practice. So if you're not able to follow along, we'll just follow through the thought process behind it first. I mentioned cash flow. I know a lot of people are talking about cash flow. Say if Tina wants to earn an interest of $1,000 per month, and Ted happened to need the money. So if Tina has some fund to lend, so if you look at interest earning $1,000 per year, $1,000 per month, using simple numbers, it's $12,000 per year. Okay. So this is how we calculate ROI. If Tina has $100,000 to lend and Ted is paying her $1,000 per month. So simple, $1,000 times 12, divide that by $100,000, that's 12%. By the way, every time the banks tells you about interest rates when we calculate return on investment, or we ask lenders what's the interest rate we're agreeing upon, it's always annualized. Okay, it's always annualized. That's why I use a year, 12 months. So scenario 2, what if Tina only has $50,000 to lend to Ted? Can Zubair be able to lend another $50,000 if you're being paid 6% of interest? So let's go through the example. Remember, return on investment is how much you put out versus how much you get in return. So $12,000 is the total return. However, now there's another interest payment to pay. So with the 6%, 50,000 times 6%. There's interest of $3,000. So now, because Tina only has $50,000 to lend out, she's only getting $9,000 a year. However, in terms of investment, she only put in $50,000. So her return on investment is actually higher. That's the power of leverage. That's the power of leverage. And by the way, another important point, you only borrow money when you can make money. So if you can make 12%, wouldn't you want to borrow at 6%? If you can make 12%, who will be willing to borrow money at 6%? Okay, there you go. So again, it's not about how much it costs you, it's about how much it's gonna make you. So again, money in, money out, that is what your return on investment is. And let's look at how long. Remember, we mentioned that interest rate or your return is always in terms of annualized interest. So sometimes there's a lender fee. Let's use an example, another $100,000, and the return is $5,000. By the way, I briefly mentioned lender fee. So regardless of how long the money is being used, lender fee is always a lump sum. So when we say 1% of lender fee or mortgage broker too, when they say broker fee is a percentage of the lump sum, regardless of how long the money is being used for. So if it's a 6-month project, the ROI compared to if it's an annual project. Let's do the annual project first, because that's what we're usually comparing to. So $5,000 is your return, and lender fee is $1,000. So let's use simple interest. $6,000 the total return, and the investment is $100,000. The return is 6%. That makes sense for everybody? Because that's how long you lend the money out for. Assume this is a year. If it's only 6 months, we do the same calculation. However, you're getting the money back in 6 months. So your return doubles. Because you can also use the same money and make another 6%. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? So the same return, the same amount of money, if it's longer, your return is actually less when it comes to ROI. So remember, we talked about the 3 pillars of private lending. ROI, how long is the next thing? That's why how long is so important. And the next thing is your collateral. A lot of things.
Why, how can you keep the return same in both examples?
The return is not the same because one is only 6 months.
No, but the return is written same in both examples. 5,000, 5,000.
Let's assume you lend out 100,000 and your return at the end is 5,000. I'm not even talking about percentage. So say you lend out 100,000. A lot of the times you lend out the money and people split the profits. That's another way of getting your profit back. So sometimes when you joint venture, you put out 100,000 and we just get back whatever the proceeds is at the end. So I'm using the example where your return in both examples is 5,000. However, in one case, the project takes 6 months to complete. Example 2, it takes 1 year to complete.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I get that. Sometimes it seems quite confusing. And if we look at OPM, private lending is just one way of getting your OPM. Credit cards. We will also briefly talk about credit cards, balance transfer. So promissory note, PN, basically that's private lending. That's a piece of paper you're secured against. And then bridge mortgage. If you ever purchase a house, a lot of people use bridge mortgage when they're waiting for cheaper financing to get through. We call that bridge mortgage. It could be private. Sometimes institutions provide bridge mortgages too. The interest is usually slightly higher. And that's your short-term strategy. If you're thinking about what can I do short-term, what can I do mid-term to help me reach my goal, and what can I do long-term? Usually a mortgage is long-term. Anybody want to share what is your amortization right now with 1 or 2 of the mortgages you have? Kate, what is your amortization?
They're both 30.
30 years. Okay. So the idea is if you pay the mortgage for 30 years, you're going to have it paid off. So usually when it's institutional, commercial, or residential, it's a long-term strategy. It's a long-term OPM. So you can see that sometimes it matches the strategies. It matches the strategies you're going to focus on. So yes, short-term, usually the cost is higher when you leverage these OPMs. And you can look at what strategies you want to focus on. First, based on what we did, your goals, and how much cash flow or capital it will generate. Then you look at different buckets of income that you want to have in terms of portfolio, earned, passive, and then look at how you're going to have long-term wealth, midterm, and short-term wealth. In terms of exit strategy, I mentioned that you have to do your due diligence. A very big part of it is to look at, okay, if it doesn't according to plan, what are we going to do? I mentioned flips is one of the ways to generate capital. A lot of the flippers, if you are in the community looking for private lending opportunities, I work with some flippers. because I know if that's their focus strategies, they will consistently looking for short-term loans and private lending. And I work with people who have track records. They can sell the property to pay you back. They can refinance it. So similarly, when I spoke about refinancing, once they refinance with cheaper OPM, they can replace your expensive funds, for example. They can repay you back with other people's money as well. And you can ask for additional security. I probably mentioned before that I have secured against one of the flippers trucks. So think about what's important to them. Their tools are very important to them. And the 3 rules, again, I just want to repeat that. Make sure you have that in mind. Always think about the 3 pillars of lending. And I think it's really important that we have to trust the people we work with. We really have to trust the people we work with. From my experience, no matter how tight your contract is, you don't want to get to that stage. You want to avoid that. So really work with people that you trust. And I think if you're in the work environment still, people always say, hire slow and fire fast. Because if you stop trusting this person, it's not going to go well. And take your time to learn about what they do. That's why it takes some time to build the trust. So I've copied this example from one of the talks Simon Sinek did. So he's the guy that wrote the book, Finding Your Why. And he focused on efficiencies and focused on how you should hire people, how you should get the most efficiency out of the people you work with or hire, or be the leader. So like I mentioned, you want to hire somebody who are highly efficient and you can really trust. That's perfect. At the same time, if you have to, I'm okay with working with people with lower efficiency and I can trust. I'll tell you why, because this is important when you build your power team. I'd rather work with somebody who is willing to grow with my business. And when I started my lease option, I had mortgage brokers that I worked with willing to go the extra miles with me, even if they don't understand what lease option is about. And I think if you take the advanced class, a big part of it is to train other people or promote the strategies you're going to focus on so we can grow together. And I found that if it's people who are trustworthy, who you want to work with long term, really efficiency is just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. So for me, I think it's really important to focus on the trust. And it's great if you can find people who have high efficiency and high trust. Have you ever been in a situation where you ask for somebody in the community for a reference and the person that they referred you to is so busy they couldn't find the time? That happens a lot. It would be great if you can build relationships with them, especially if you come from referral. At the same time, find somebody you can trust. And I'm okay with building relationships because really it's not transactional. So I'm just putting it out there. Since we are trust your talent, I do think you can trust yourself as well, even though you're thinking that you're just here to gain some knowledge. Eventually, this will seem like second nature to you. And it's really through practice that you're going to gain some efficiency. It's not just about money, it's really about people. I think a lot of the time, when you're dealing with joint venture partners, your investors is really about the people you're working with. And why do we talk about hard money lending? Because I lead to hard money lending because trust is such a huge part of it. Sometimes you're just working with a promissory note. I'll give you examples of a promissory note. It's just a 2-pager and with everything that you need in the terms. And they don't have to be regulated lenders. However, there are certain things if you have to get to that stage. And still secured by property. Hard money simply means that it's secured against hard asset. So it doesn't mean that a coin is hard, like the picture I showed earlier. It just means that it's secured against a hard asset. You may or may not register on title. You may or may not. It depends on which province you're going to conduct your business in. From my experience, sometimes it's easier in one jurisdiction versus another. Okay? And also, I highly, highly recommend that you register on title. I'm willing to sacrifice 1 or 2 percentage point for security. And again, this is your personal decision. This is your business. For me, and if I speak to a student or if you're in the community wanting to learn how we do private lending, I highly recommend that you register on title. The terms could be flexible because you know how different exit strategies are and you have more tools. You could charge higher interest rates. At the same time, you have to think about what's the risk. And in the fundamental class, we talked about loan to value. That's one way of evaluating the risk. Also, where the property is another way of evaluating the risk. If it's something you're familiar with, if you're handy, if you're helping somebody else completing a flip project, perhaps to you it's not as high risk. To me, it is. So if you have a power team that's constantly working with you to look for deals, perhaps to you, that's not a high risk. To somebody else, it might be, also depending on the market. So equity from collateral, we talk about loan to value. That is the skin in the game. Look at their portfolio, look at their resume. Sometimes they will provide you with the projects they've worked on before. Also ask for references. By the way, real estate community is not that big. So make sure your deals are good. Some people say you're only as good as your last deal. So make sure you do it right. Do it ethically. Remember the 3 rules of lending. So it doesn't have to be really complicated. Really, this could be a 2-pager. This is all you need to include in there. Who is a borrower, who is a lender, and principal amount, and also the location of the collateral. The date, so remember how much in, how much out, your return on investment. That's basically your interest. The date is basically how long it is. And it just tells you that sometimes you can decide what you want to do. Perhaps you don't want other people to put a lien against it. So these are other terms you can put in there. You can decide on the lender fee. If you want to charge a fee, it's really up to you. It can be upfront lender fee, or it could be included in the loan, or it could be paid at the end. That's why I said private lending is really flexible. Interest rate, I use simple interest of 12%. And this is a closed term, 1 year from the event date. And sometimes I also mention that the minimum, for example, are 3 months, because after we go through all the work, I want to make sure, even if they complete the project in 2 months, at least I'm making profit for the first 3 months or so. Really, it's personal decision. I'm just giving you an example to see how flexible it could be. And really, it depends on you. Again, focus on the property itself. That's a big part because that's your collateral. That's your security. Like I mentioned, you could be flexible. I understand that for some flippers. They need the cash flow while they were building. So a lot of the times they're required to pay you back at the end of the project after they sell the property. So it has to make sense for both parties. If you really, really need monthly cash flow, perhaps you don't want to work with somebody who can only pay you back at the very end. And why do the bank require 90 days of proof of down payment? Because they don't want money laundering. So anti-laundering law. Same thing, you can also talk about how you want the funds to be used and what kind of security and how you want to do things ethically. So even though that's the law that the bank has to follow, that kind of provides you with an opportunity. If somebody who couldn't afford to have their funds sitting in the bank account for 90 days, and it is still a good project, a good deal. Think about how you can help each other grow their portfolio, what the opportunities are. So there could be open terms. The qualification is really up to you. A lot of the times, you don't look at their debt ratio. You look at what their portfolios look like. You could decide if you're on credit check. I look at their credit report, really not looking at the credit score. I just want to see where they place their funds and how they manage your money. Again, everything we do is goal and intention oriented. Think about why you're doing this. And you can decide if you want appraisal or not. Most of the time, all these expenses, lawyer fee, etc., are paid by the borrower. A lot of the times, they don't provide appraisal. However, they provide comps, the comparables in the market they're in. Okay? I don't think for me, it's not a big deal not to have the appraisal. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the times, the flippers or the people who are renovating, we call it forced appreciation, adding value to the property, are doing something new. And in some provinces, or even where I am, garden suite is something new that a lot of people are doing. Because adding a second unit, adding a third unit doesn't cash flow anymore. A lot of people are adding another unit. Because it's something new, perhaps there's no other comparables in the market. They basically base on their appraisal on what's out there, what it could be worth. Because it's so new, perhaps there's no fair appraisal out there. So I'm looking at what's the fair market rent, for example, once they add an additional unit, what the property could be worth. Okay, so just to give you some example of what you can ask, if that's really important to you, go ahead and ask for these informations, just to make sure you feel secure, you feel comfortable doing it. So here's another example. I just laid out earlier of what terms are in there. So this is an actual promissory note. I just block out the names, the property itself, the amount. You can see that it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The date, so return on investment, how much in, how much out, that's your return on investment at 12%. What's your collateral? So the address is usually there. And also, how long? So the dates are stated there, and when it's going to end is also stated in the promissory note. That's it. When you print it out, sometimes it's just a 2-pager. Pretty simple. If you're still new in the community, I would recommend that we do have samples of promissory note. Make sure you go through your promissory note with your mentors, with the lawyers you're working with. You don't always have to spend the lawyer fees. However, if it's your first few deals, make sure you do that. Or if it's something very different, I would recommend that you do so. Do it legally because also it protects you. So if it's your first couple, make sure you walk through it with your mentor and your lawyers. And I'm going through a quick example to show you that really how much in, how much out will make a difference when it comes to return on investment. So this is a property that's purchased at $200,000. If there's an opportunity to repair the property after 4 months, that the after repair value is going to be $435,000. So if you put everything in there, $200,000 plus $70,000 of renovation plus $25,000 of landscaping. After everything is paid, I know there's lawyer fee, etc., etc. However, just go through the process with me and the thought process as well. After you sell the property, you can profit $140,000. We mentioned that perhaps you don't have the $95,000 to complete the project. You can borrow it at 12% through a private lender. I would definitely do this deal, by the way. And if you have my book, there's a project that I did. I think it's in the 300,000 range. It's been a while. Very similar number, because I want to mention that because a lot of people going into these examples thinking, are these real deals? Could this really be done? Yes, it could be done. And if you don't have the funds to complete the project, so sometimes you can go through the bank. It's called an improvement loan as well. However, the bank wants you to see that you're gonna start building before they forward you the funds. A lot of the times, especially today, if the material is hard to get, a lot of the flippers or people who are renovating want to secure the material first. Sometimes they need to pay a deposit. So they rather have the funds sooner or later. Remember that if you can get in and out quickly, that's return on your time as well. So in case you're not able to get a mortgage, say you're borrowing $70,000 plus $25,000 at 12%. And your debt servicing, so 700, simple math, 70,000 times 12%, divide that by 12 months times 4. So that's the total cost of borrowing that money. Remember, you're not putting the 70,000 and 25,000 out of your own pocket. That money is OPM, other people's money. You can still make money. So if you can profit 140,000, wouldn't you share the wealth and let other people participate in the deal? Why would you not proceed if you don't have that $95,000? Would anybody want to participate in this type of project? Yes? Would you let go of the opportunity if you don't have the money to renovate it? By the way, even if you cannot secure the $95,000, you can wholesale this opportunity to somebody else. So there's always opportunities. Again, it's really not about how much it costs you. It's about how much it's going to make you. It's about how much it's going to make you. So think about that. What if you don't even want to borrow that from somebody? If you have the ability to find a balance transfer opportunity. So let's run the ROIs using a balance transfer. So usually it's not a huge amount. You can find several people with balance transfer and then let them participate in the deal. Let's use the same example. Remember, the total for proceed is 140,000. So the return on investment, if you have to put in everything yourself, pull out a calculator if you're questioning the number or want to just run through the number and understand how it works. So 140,000 is the proceed, and you put in 295,000. How much in, how much out? That is your return on investment. And then if you do a balance transfer at 0%, usually there's a promotional period of 9 months, 12 months. I've seen the maximum of 24 months. So during the period you're flipping the house, you're not going to pay any interest. However, there's a balance transfer fee. If you have any questions on how this works, make sure you reach out to your strategy coach or reach out to me if you have questions, or reach out to your mentor. And initial investment, 295,000 was required. However, that 25,000 doesn't have to come from you. It could be the OPM from the bank, so your credit card. Remember, you have to pay the balance transfer fee of $250. So now that's your initial investment, the money you have to come up with. Slightly less, your return on investment, again, it's how much in and how much out. And now your return on investment is improved significantly. Questions so far? Oh, good. Okay, I just want to check on you and make sure everybody's good so far. And I do want to mention that I understand why a lot of people are looking into real estate investing right now. When the market was really hot, I'll tell you why at that point. Because when the market was really hot, everybody was thinking, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out. So I want to learn how it works, because everybody was fighting for opportunity. So 2 years ago, there were a lot of multiple offers. A lot of people are complaining they couldn't get into real estate investing because everybody was putting in crazy money and making multiple offers that don't make sense. So investor couldn't secure a property. There's always a good time to invest. And that's why a lot of people wanted to learn at that point. Today, a lot of people ask me about real estate investing and want to learn about it because, as you can see, a lot of people don't have enough to retire on. 30% of the people are starting to dip into their savings. What if you don't have any savings? If you don't have any savings, you might get into a lot of bad debt. So 66% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. When I started to teach the course about 2 years ago, that number was 50%. And this is the newest number today. So 2/3 of the people are living paycheck to paycheck. And then 63% of the people are spending their entire net pay. I'll tell you the slight difference in there. People living paycheck to paycheck, perhaps they have savings. Perhaps they can somehow get by. However, not everybody could. So if you just ask people, there's another survey about how do people feel? Do they feel more stressed? Do they feel less confident about their expenses, about their own financial situation? So now the survey respondents said 48% of the people feel like they have less disposable income. And then 39% of the people in the past, that wasn't older data, felt that way. And I feel that perhaps it's even worse. Because even though people have the money, a lot of people are replacing what they used to have. For example, perhaps people used to buy steak. Now they're buying ground beef. They used to buy actual beef, and now they're eating burgers. Or they don't eat out as much. People are not starving. However, their quality of life is sacrificed. So I just want to put it out there. And that's why it's so important to make your money work faster for you. Why do we spend so much time talking about return on investment? I'll let you off the hook. I'm telling you why I'm picking on some of you in the group, because I think sometimes when we have a conversation, it's really how fast we want our money run for us. So if you can make 5%, why would you want to make 1%? And if you're already an investor, when you see $1,000 of cash flow, why would you settle for 1% of GIC? Why would you sacrifice that? So if you can learn about how to make your money run faster, why wouldn't you do that? And that's exactly why you're here. Invest in yourself because you're your biggest asset. And I think it's okay if you want doodads, if you enjoy a nice watch, if you enjoy a fancy trip, it's totally fine. Are you generating enough cash flow or return on your investment to support that lifestyle? Okay. So I want you to aim for that top 1% of wealth. To aim for that. Because depending on where you are, you can see how much time you have to help you reach that financial goal. And if you haven't done this exercise with me before, make sure you pull out a piece of paper and write down number 1 to 83. You can put it in a chart like I did, or you can just put it down a piece of paper. So every year that you lived on Earth is one number. Cross it out and do it slowly. Then you realize how much time you have left. If you're in your 40s, basically more than 60% of the time is gone. So what do you want to do with your time? So I do want to share this clip with everybody.
I ask how much money you have in the business.
I put about 630,000 into it.
Wow.
Oh, that's a lot.
But because you're a royalty guy, you don't need the money, right?
630.
Why do you need a shark?
Your most valuable commodity isn't your money, it's your time. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And time gone by is gone forever. I don't have it in me to build another company. My time is past. My main reason for being here is to leave Kenzo in good hands. And by that, I mean with successful, smart, honest, and ethical people like yourselves.
Wow. I love you, baby.
So really is when do you want to start? And like this clip, it resonates with me so much because he was already pretty successful. However, if you want to build your legacy, think about how you could do this. Perhaps have a mentor for your kid, or build a business that your kid could benefit from. And I don't think every kid is the same as us. There's so much you can do in real estate, though, that I'm sure they can find something. I love to work with creative things. That's why I focus on creative financing. I know there are some people that love to see an ugly house turn into a fancy hotel room. So in that case, staging Airbnb might be your thing. So everybody is different, and there's so much we can do with real estate. That's why I love it. I just want to share that. If you haven't done that, if you're new to the community, make sure you book a call with our strategy coach. If I see some event students already, speak to one of us, speak to your mentor about what you want to do next. I understand that you might have heard this before. You might learn about private lending or heard about it in the market. If there's anything that resonates with you, I hope it's your time well spent today. Like anything else, I think when you have a roadmap, things will be a lot easier for you. And I want to mention that this is what we covered today. You want to scale. That's why time is so important. That's why ROI, return on your time, your investment is so important. I hope you're educated today. I know most people are here wanting to learn and take action. I hope you're inspired if you want to accumulate some capital and start to be the bank. Or if you see obstacles, you see that there are alternative funds that are available to you. Remember the 3 rules. It's really important. ROI, how long, and what's your security? So write that down if you never heard anything about private lending. And this could be true, by the way, also for your other strategies. Thank you for the thumbs up. And these are some of the quotes I love when it comes to investor mindset. I already said it earlier, just want to reinforce it. If it resonates with you, make sure you write it down. You buy and sell to create capital so you can buy and hold to create wealth. Tina, can you unmute yourself and read the second one for me?
It's not about how much it costs you, it's about how much it makes you.
Thank you. I hope that resonates with you. Ted, can you read the third one for me?
Money is your last limit factor.
There you go. Because when the deal is great, money will chase the deal. Like the examples I gave you, I see so many people raising their hands. And you still have probably a couple days, if that, to register for the annual conference. And I think it's really the community that I love so much, because we're all here to support you. And not just us, also your peers as well are here to support you. And like myself, when I was a student, I started working on my first deal with fellow students and people who are trained and learn the same way. Again, take a screenshot of the dates. And also, I do want to see you at the annual conference. By the way, John, are you coming too? To the annual conference?
Everything's pretty much booked.
There you go. What are you taking?
I'm doing the one with Gustafa for service accommodation.
Service accommodation. Perfect.
Yeah, I figure it's the fastest way to turn around
Cash flow?
a struggling Airbnb short-term rental property I've had. So get the most benefit out of it that way first, and then explore other options later.
Okay, so for sure, if anybody is going to be at the annual conference, we can all say hi to each other. I'll say hi to you, John. And this is what's going to be like.
I belong to you. Do just what you want. You're the one I trust. And I always be around when I need some loving, baby.
Trust Your Talent is just an amazing, amazing community. I always tell people how it is about the people that you surround yourself with, and the people of Trust Your Talent are so warm and open and caring and trustworthy. I've done many partnerships with people in Trust Your Talent, and I have really expanded my real estate investing knowledge.
This is my first time here at the Trust Your Talent annual conference, And it's just been unbelievable energy from everybody, unbelievable networking, and lots of learning.
So people have asked me why. Trust your talent. Do you guys run a modeling agency? I used to say no, that's not what we do. And then the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of going, you know what, that's exactly what we do. Because every single one of you in this room, every single one of you in this room is a role model. For everybody else out there in your life, or just out there, period, that yearns for something more and something better out of their own lives. So I really do believe that every single one of us is that role model. So give yourselves a round of applause, please.
You fall off track. That's okay. Don't worry. We all do. Get back up and charge forward. You are responsible for you. Don't leave your journey in someone else's hands. Begin with the end in mind and keep flexing your proactive muscles to make things happen.
Thank you, everybody, for spending the time with me tonight. Any questions before I close the room? I haven't got a chance to read the chat yet. Kate, any questions?
Yes. The slide when you said that you, for lending, like you register on title, that's like a lien, right? You're not registering as an owner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's like a lien. So I think in some provinces it's easier than others. Sometimes we call it a caveat. These are legal terms. I know my lawyers use different ones. Basically, I just mean put a security on it.
Okay.
I should use that term. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. So no other questions? Then I do appreciate you spending the time here with me tonight. We're only less than 10 days away for me to see some of you if you're going to be at the annual conference early. I'll be there starting Wednesday. So if you're there, make sure you say hi. I know there's going to be a lot of people. So even if it's just a minute or two, I do want to say hi to everybody when we get the chance. So I will see you all there. And thank you, Catherine, for supporting me today as well. Good night, everybody.